Dr. Jazz.
No worries. No, I was just listening the other day. Like I have quite some CDs of you, like to Pollock, and then I said
Ah,
like, oh shit, I'll drop you a line. And I've always loved those records with Tony and John Hebert and
yeah.
beautiful stuff. But I want to jump into this talk with the new album. I didn't know about it, but then I listened to it after we confirmed that our talk, the duo with
Yeah.
Jürgen, with Johannes, and
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful record. What's the story behind it? How it sounds very loose and open, and lots of communication going on. And
Yeah, it's actually for me is a completely new approach. I mean, we do this for a couple years, Johannes and me, and I mean, we both come from more the background of writing tunes and played with bands. But in this setting, this duo setting, Nano Brothers, we just work without any paper or
mm,
any preconceived.
okay,
So we have just nothing. We just go there and play, and I enjoy that very very much. And we did some rehearsing or some like trying things and like improvising and speak about it and find like little ideas what works and like communication things or like even non-musical structures and stuff we like and just talk about it but then forget and
yeah,
and just play
yeah,
and I really like that process, that freedom. And so it's free improvised music, but it might not sound like many other free
yeah,
improvised
exactly,
music
exactly,
projects. So
exactly.
maybe it's because we have this background, like this tuneful background in a way. And we sometimes we also try to improvise like tunes or so yeah. So it came out like that.
Yeah, it's like
Uh,
melodic free playing. Funny you mentioned because to me it sounds like almost composed some parts
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're so much listening to each other, and it's beautiful.
yeah. It's I mean we're both composers and also arrangers,
Yeah,
and yeah, that's we just uh, we just love the variety as well. So sometimes we like to be very noisy, or I don't know, but also we accept like tonality
absolutely. Yeah,
into free playing.
yeah.
It I Now that you talk about it, I remember I talked to John Taylor, the British pianist,
Oh man, I'm
and
such a fan. Yeah.
I heard him in Cologne, Stadtgarten, some years back. And next day I talked to him, and I was very young, and I asked him, "What was it? What did you do there? Was it free or what was it?" And he said, I think he said that's the British way of playing free, like more the sound. I think in German there's a word called Klangforschung
Yeah,
that
yeah.
would mean like
Sound
sound
research, kind of.
research
Yeah.
or something like that. So it's another kind of freedom um, that allows as well like tonality and atonality at the same time and stuff. And so that I think that is very much what I like.
Mhm. Yeah. I like that style. Me too. You have the radical free, which to me is too wild in a sense, but just like this style of free playing, I really love incorporating also in compositions that you make a complex hat, whatever, and then you go into open section, which kind of stays then with the framework
Yeah.
the composition, and then you go somewhere. I like that. It's a nice approach. Like John Taylor, yeah, you mentioned, or Lee Konitz. You know those. He did a lot of free playing actually with Dan
Yeah.
Tepfer on piano, and it sounds, you know, as if he's playing All the Things You Are, because it's so melodic in a sense and amazing.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
nice
he
approach.
he goes with the melody, and
Yeah,
then the changes like are second, and even if the melody is somehow not inside the changes,
yeah,
it's so strong and it makes totally sense.
yeah.
I love it how he plays over like all the things you are and stuff.
That's,
Yeah,
I mean, that's his tune actually, right? I mean,
yeah,
he
yeah.
played that for 60 years. I mean, beautiful. You mentioned John Taylor. Was he important for you also? Like, I mean,
Yeah, I studied with him. Yeah,
oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
Like in Cologne, or
Yes, yes.
really?
He was in Cologne. Yeah.
How was that like? I mean, you know, I'm like I said, I'm such a huge fan. He's one of the, I think, most underrated jazz piano players ever. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, um, on this blue album from Kenny Wheeler,
yeah,
this music for small and large ensembles. On that second CD, they do like small group music,
yeah,
and they play like improvised pieces there. It's not so. I mean, many people mainly hear like the first disc
yeah,
with the large ensemble
yeah.
stuff, but yeah. How was it with John? I enjoyed it very, very much. He was with me. He was like very much listening and supporting, and we played. We had this room with two pianos,
Mm,
and so we just played a lot together. And I think that without talking, it influenced me maybe a great deal. Uh, and he never gave me homework or stuff, or he actually didn't say so much. I tried to like, what should I do? And
mm.
he he didn't say much. And then it was funny that when I talked to like other students and they got homework from him, but I think he felt that I was working anyway, and
Mm.
um, so yeah, that was a big influence, and he was a wonderful person as well, and he brought the music of Kenny Wheeler to the Cologne scene, and of course John's own music
Yeah,
as
yeah.
a
Oh man,
composer, which
beautiful.
is so great. Yeah, he made quite an impact, I think. Where it's still, I can still feel it in the city.
Mm,
Like there are many people influenced by him.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever talk about composition with him, or did you ask him like what's his process, or?
No, I mean, of course, I showed him my pieces and played him my pieces, and he gave me. He was very polite and modest. Also, he gave me a lot of Kenny Wheeler's tunes
Mm,
and
yeah.
a
Okay.
few of his own tunes. So later on, I got more of his tunes. No, we didn't discuss composition like in a
Formal way. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, an academic way or so. Yeah, it was more about playing, or for me, it was like soaking up the aesthetics or so.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If we go even further back, I mean, why jazz piano? Like, who did you hear? Did you have like a specific moment that got you interested in jazz? I mean, like hearing, I don't know, Herbie or Chick or someone, or
Yeah, good question. I mean, I started classical piano lessons. Um, I was actually asked last, like my two other brothers were, when we got this piano from my grandparents, they didn't want it anymore. My parents didn't think of me first, but my brothers didn't want, so I took lessons. And yeah, I quite fell in love with playing piano and play classical, and um, I did a little improvising and I enjoyed it very much. I could like sit there for an hour or
Mm.
so and just play some notes. Um, yeah, I was yeah very much more into classical music first, and but I had this vibe of all other creativity things like literature and like a little bit of like a school theater group, blah blah blah. And I told my I told my piano teacher I want to play jazz, I want to improvise, and I didn't know anything. And she said, I can't do that. Go to this guy. I know a guy. And I went to this guy in my hometown there, further north, Germany. And he was good, and he was like this self-taught, old school
Mm.
guy who had no like music education, but who had transcribed all the tunes from records and stuff.
Mm.
And so then I was quickly like the first like explorations in jazz by Bill Evans was that
Yeah,
I bought that record by accident. I
that's a good record to buy by accident. Yeah.
yeah we a friend of mine had a driving license, so we drove to a record store, and we did know nothing, and we just bought the records by like from the covers. So I bought Explorations in Jazz. I bought Hotel Hello from like Steve
Hmm.
Swallow,
Oh yeah.
and and some more really great records. And then I uh, the first like concerts I went to was Chick Corea. We drove to Hamburg to see him there.
Mm.
Acoustic band um, with John Petitucci.
Patitucci. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's real. Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, I mean then one thing I'm I made the switch. I dreamed of becoming like a classical piano player when I like in my teens, and luckily I changed in time, and um, yeah, then I started jazz more, and I went to this big band. We had this like youth big band from the state, from the region.
Mm. Yeah.
So and then we played all the like big band classics and stuff, and then yeah, after that I went to Cologne and yeah, just continued.
Yeah. It's like a disease, right? Well, once you fall in love with jazz, like everyone I speak to, then you become a snob at a certain stage. Like when you're 18, it's just like jazz. Then you finally open up again, and but it's really it's I really like this exploration moment that we all have. You know, someone, and then you start exploring and all these other artists, and such a
Yeah,
nice thing about music. I mean, jazz, I think specifically, and
yeah.
it's a nice thing. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. You mentioned Kenny before, Wheeler playing his tunes, and on Summerflat, you know, it's your quartet with Kenny. And did you meet Kenny through John actually, and or and how was it working with Kenny? You know, I'm really a fan of those guys like John Taylor and Kenny Wheeler. Especially Kenny, he's like for me
Yeah,
top three there.
yeah. It was funny. I had this band, this quartet, and I wrote music for like tunes for that band, and I didn't know Kenny's music at that time.
Okay.
And then when I met John, he gave me a lot of Kenny's tunes, and I fell so in love with these compositions, and I felt like a musical relationship. So, and I was about to record with that quartet,
Mm.
and then then I said, okay, maybe I ask him. So I asked him if he would record with us, and the nice thing is that he was kind of careful. I mean, like he said, I would like to play some gigs first to see if it works, and that was like even better. And so we actually played some little tours
Oh,
in
really?
Germany.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
fantastic, man.
and then after that we recorded, and yeah, he was such a lovely person and so dedicated musician,
Mm.
and his sound
Yeah.
was so. I know we have this place which is called the Loft
Yeah,
in
sure.
Cologne.
I played there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like a mid-sized place, and I never heard any flugelhorn player like fill this space without microphone or anything. His sound was
Yeah.
so big, and it just filled the space. Um, yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So such a nice sound he had. He could play anything. Well, again, that free melodic playing that he does sometimes, which
Yeah,
is melodic basically, right? But it's so nice, yeah. And the tunes, of course, GNU High and all those records. I mean, man, come on,
yeah,
it's like classics. It's
yeah,
quite a privilege you got to work with him. I mean, and play gigs, and
yeah,
that's a special thing, yeah.
yeah. That was a dream. Yeah,
Yeah. The,
I-
I mentioned also the trio with John Hebert and Tony. You guys did a lot of records. I think I have 3 or 4 records by the trio. Like, how did you hook up with those 2 players? And
I met John first in Lake Placid, upstate New York.
ah,
I went to that workshop where like a lot of my like heroes or so were teaching. Like Maria Schneider was there,
mm,
and like Bob Brookmeyer and Dick Oates, people like that. And so a bunch of guys from the school or so. We went there, like 10 or so people, and yeah, that was a good camp. And I met John there, and we uh, played a little bit together. And then he invited me. He was living in Queens at that time, and then I was staying at his place, and we like played some sessions, and then we yeah, actually pretty soon we record that very first CD.
hmm
Yeah, and yeah, then we stayed together, and it was nice that like I did the European side, trying to get some gigs, and they did organize some gigs over there, and so
Oh,
we kept it going like for over 10 years or so, and did five records.
yeah.
Yeah,
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 it's beautiful to hear the development of the trio. I think Pollock is the last one, right? And it's like the communication just kept growing when I listened to music, and the interplay between you three, really nice. I mean, really nice trio.
yeah. Thank you. My favorite is, I think, Resistance,
Mm, yeah,
Bad City,
yeah, yeah.
because that somehow started. Maybe that is a bit linked to the Nano Brothers project, because when we recorded Resistance, we had composed material, and between recording the composed stuff, we somehow needed a break, and so we said, okay, let's just improvise, just yeah, to relax, or I don't know, and so we had, in the end, we had like maybe 50% composed, 50% improvised. And when I listened to the tracks, I noticed that I really like the natural
Mm,
thing, what improvisations have, what compositions somehow. I mean, they can feel a bit like a cage
yeah,
sometimes, or
yeah,
or maybe they don't suit the situation. Sometimes you want to just stretch longer, or I don't know what. And improvising is always like in the moment and natural and yeah, like more communicative. So I found that stronger, and so we put 5 or so improvisations on that disc, and that kept me thinking, and maybe from that moment on, maybe I got more and more into the
Open
improv
also.
thing.
Yeah. I like that. I mean, especially I played with John a little, and he's so good at stretching.
Yeah.
The harmonically and time-wise the playing, and it's so nice to play. And
Yeah. He's so listening, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
could at any moment, even if you play compositions, at any moment, if you feel like I stay here a little longer in the piece, I don't follow the bars, I stretch it. He would need like less than a second
yeah,
to yeah, that's beautiful. He was actually, I mean, his approach. I mean, his mentor was Andrew
Andrew
Hill.
Hill, sure, yeah,
Yeah, and I think that influenced me a lot. How he, um, I mean, to be so free, even within compositions. And
yeah,
uh, I remember that gig we did in Baton Rouge, where he comes from,
yeah,
and like his, I mean, this like all like uncles and like people were there, like first row, and we had this tune where he played like a bass intro normally, and somehow he felt, I don't know, maybe uneasy with all his fellows there. So we started that piece, and I was waiting for him to play that bass intro, but then he looked at me and said, "You got it." So I got this intro with like no preparation time and no time to think, and that was beautiful. So just go,
yeah,
and that is his approach, and
yeah,
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 it's funny. Not so many people, like, I mean, there are so many great players around, but this way of playing is like a bit more of approaching compositions with
yeah,
freedom is
yeah.
not so, it's not so well known in a way.
I agree.
And sometimes I miss that in music. Even even like bands that are very impressing. Uh, if I don't feel this searching for the right thing in the
Mm,
moment of play, then it can get a bit overwhelming, or I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah, or even boring sometimes. I mean, it's like for me the Jared trio with Gary and Jack. I mean, they're incredible. But it's just like after some time, that's my personal. I miss this. Yeah, even though all of them did that on their own records, like Jack obviously and Gary, but within the trio, I mean, it's standards. But I like it when they play more open music, like on some albums, and uh,
Yeah,
it's a nice, especially piano trio format. That's why I like this trio with John and Tony. That it's a hard format for a pianist because there's so much tradition
yeah,
behind you, and it's like must be heavy to play in a piano trio. I don't know. It's like guitar solo for me. You have so much amazing guitarists out there, and you just have to let it go, I think, or to relax. And yeah, you had that with that trio. I like that.
yeah. I think the traditions. I know it could be like a weight on your shoulders, but actually, I think we should be happy that there's so much before us, and it's just inspiration. And I don't know. You can never reach some. I also I don't want to be
Exactly.
like someone else. So I know I'm very limited, and on the other hand, I have maybe some personal things that other.
Absolutely.
It's like very human, and I find we should like um so what's the word, like we should um is it cherish
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate
like
and
the
cherish. Yeah,
the individuality like of any person on the planet. So
yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And music especially, yeah, we all have our own voices, and uh, so yeah, I agree, definitely. Yeah. What about your composing? You mentioned I listened to that album with Kenny, and already there it's some beautiful music. You've written that Inner Garden and some other tunes, which are really long compositions.
Yeah.
And how did you start composing, or even how has your process developed through the years?
Oh, I don't even know when I started. I was always composing, like in like my first one or two bands I had when I was at school. I
Mm.
mean, at like public school. I always wrote tunes for those bands. Um, it felt somehow natural to me.
Mm.
Um, yeah, then later on, yeah, the tunes got longer and paperish. uh, yeah, and it's yeah. I find it like in small groups, like pieces with many pages don't work so well.
Mm.
Um, like these summer flood pieces and inner
Yeah,
garden
yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. Uh, and someone told me, why don't you arrange that for a large ensemble? And I think that was a very good uh, hint, because those longish compositions work well for
Yeah,
large
yeah,
ensembles.
yeah, yeah.
So that that led me into that.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah, large ensembles. You did. Very nice.
Um, yeah, for small groups, I'm back to like one pages or so, or no pages, no paper.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's funny. It's against ages, right? We're all the same. I did, like, 20 years ago, like 8-page compositions with odd meters and harmony changing all the time, like, constantly. And I just like a 11 bar structure, or even like, one rubato melody, and just let it
Yeah,
loose. And it's so much more music there. But
yeah, yeah,
I think we have to get comfortable to achieve that, right? You have to be older and not be afraid or something to prove. I think that's the main point.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think one needs it at one time
yeah,
to
yeah,
write long stuff. Yeah, and then maybe later when you improvise, you can somehow use it
yeah,
yourself.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I saw your one of your CDs on a Bob Osborne playlist,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
like a guy from Manchester who
yeah, yeah,
I saw your piece there. Yeah,
yeah. I've done a lot. I mean, we all do. It's a nice thing that we can do. I teach and I try to write a lot also in between, and I just like this band leading concept of organizing things as well. And I
yeah.
don't know, it's a nice thing. But speaking of band leading, I wanted to ask you about do you have some new band stuff coming up, like in a trio format or something like that? Have you preparing something new, or?
I mean, now I was kind of busy with this duo
Yeah,
project, and before that, I had a large ensemble, like a big band thing,
yeah,
like recording.
that's a nice one. Yeah,
that was a huge like effort as well, organizing blah blah blah, and it was in the pandemic, and we had to move it for a year, and that was so. Now I'm kind of lazy. I I I like to think like small format kind of stuff. No, I don't know what comes next.
Mm.
We want to play some gigs with the Nano Brothers, and no, I have to think or develop or so.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
Makes
I
sense.
play in some groups and stuff, but like the next thing I do, I
Mm.
can't say yet.
Mm. I also wanted to ask you this. You're in Cologne, in Köln, and you know, I know so many players now in Cologne, and the scene is so active. How has, in your view, the scene developed since, I guess, the late 90s to now? I mean, in Cologne and in Germany, let's say in general, gigging wise, and especially in Cologne. In Cologne, something happened, I think, in the last 20 years or 10. It's just like,
Yeah, I believe it's just when more and more like people studied, and like there must be like a critical moment when the numbers of musicians in a town like reach a certain percentage, then somehow it's like a chain reaction or so.
mm,
Um, then yeah, I mean, of course, the level of playing, like quality wise and skill wise, is getting higher and higher. And so many musicians being in town, and they all want to do something. So I would say there was a large wave of founding bands,
mm,
and so, for example, I play in that Cologne Contemporary Jazz Orchestra, and there are at least like five other orchestras,
not really.
uh,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and they all like find a place for like a steady gig, and they play there like every month or so.
Oh,
And that's only the large groups. There are like much more like small groups, and so somehow I think the number of musicians like uh, increased the main thing,
yeah.
and also conditions got a little better. I mean, not necessarily like places to play, but like overall in Germany, the way society looks on musicians,
Mm,
it used to be like a totally obscure thing to be a freelance musician with a strange music. Uh, but yeah, now it's more and more like acknowledged as a part of culture and a way of living, and
yeah.
there are like researches being done about how much money people earn a year, and how are the living conditions, and then also from that it is like they go to like we have this Cologne Musician Society,
Mm,
and we have
okay.
also like a German Deutsche Jazzunion, it's called
Oh, yeah.
German Society, and they all go, they are networking better than before, and they go to they're connected with like the politicians at the Bundestag and stuff, and they say, okay, here are a lot of people, and they do culture, and that makes
Mhm.
cities like more worth living in, and so we have to support, and actually it does work. it's not. I mean the freelance scene is still far less supported than like symphony orchestras and
Yeah,
opera and stuff. But it's getting a little bit better, and founding is getting better. Yeah, so more people can survive.
actually make a living. Yeah,
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 that's a good thing.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. I was in Cologne the last time, like 15 years ago. I played in the Loft, and then I just, read about it and hear all this amazing music coming out from there. So have to make it back there one day, one day
Yeah,
soon. Yeah,
yeah, totally.
yeah.
The Loft is still
It's still
like
going, right?
it's buzzing. Yeah,
Yeah, and Stadtgarten is still also going, no?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So these are the two
yeah,
main places. Yeah,
yeah.
fantastic. Yeah, yeah, I love it. I play a lot in Germany, but I just somehow we never make it to Cologne. It's yeah, hopefully soon. So yeah, but fantastic, man. Yeah. Well, Jürgen, if you're ever around in Austria or somewhere, drop me a line. That we
Yeah,
get together for a beer or we get to play or something would be nice
yeah, totally.
to
Yeah, I'd
improvise.
like to. Yeah,
Yeah,
and let
and
me know if you play at Loft.
yeah, yeah, I will. I will definitely. I will. Or Stuttgart maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, but fantastic. Cool. I'll let you go. I mean, we covered a lot of that I wanted to cover. So it was so nice to hear you talk about all these things. Thanks for taking the time again.
Wow, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, I love this, man. It's just like I just pick up usually a CD from the huge CD collection. I'm like, man, wow, this sounds incredible. And then usually people like you respond and they want to do it, and it's nice to create an archive. I think with
Yeah, that's a great idea.
musicians and
Yeah,
not just big, huge names like but there's like a sea of musicians like us who are creative and doing stuff, and
yeah,
it's nice that you get contribute to some exposure. So
yeah.
yeah,
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much. It
Yeah, thank you
feels
too. So
it's good.
yeah, cool. Jürgen, I'll let you know when this is out, and I'll send you a link and everything, and then we can share it. So
Okay, cool.
cool. Great,
So,
sir. Thank you.
thank you so much.
Okay. Have a
So,
nice
Dr. Jazz.